So hi everybody, and thank you for coming to hear Roberta's COC. My wife and I had a Chihuahua for about 8 years, and we're both psychologists, and so naturally we managed to break him. He has a lot of social and emotional problems, and so he's currently in my mum's care. Anyway, when we had a kid of our own, we promised to try to do everything for TJ's development, including limiting screen time because of everything we've been told. And then of course COVID hit, right? When you've got a toddler in a 2-bedroom unit, there was a whole lot of screen time. So I persuaded Roberta, no, she did this on her own thing, but to try to see whether we were going to be breaking TJ as well, breaking our son. And so I really think Roberta's project isn't just for my own edification. There are so many parents out there that are so worried about screen time, and Roberta's going to talk to us about whether or not that's really as bad as maybe it's made out to be, or how we can make it potentially not so bad. So over to you, Roberta.
Thanks, Mike. So, hi everyone for joining me today. And firstly, I'd like to thank you, Mike, for your support and guidance through this process, and all my other co-supervisors, Phil, Chris, Taryn. Thanks, you all. And I will present. I also like to thank my husband and my 3 little boys because they were so supportive and comprehensive over this period, and they deserve this. Thank you. My thesis is entitled Understanding the Effects of Screen Time on Children's Socio-Emotional Well-Being. Well, the World Health Organization in 2019 reported that the global prevalence of mental disorders among young people aged 10 to 19 years old was about 16%. So our children are not feeling happy. They are feeling sad, angry, they are feeling fear about the things happening in their lives. But why they are feeling this way? Why they cannot see happiness on their lives? Why they're not enjoying their lives? Evidence suggests, as Mike said, that everything is about screen time. That our kids are engaging so much, watching TV, YouTube videos, playing so much video games, that they are getting stressed, bored, anxious, and they are showing some kind of aggressive behaviors, or they are being antisocial, or presenting conduct problems, just because of screen time. And especially when they are not in front of screen, they used to show or to demonstrate this kind of behaviors. So, in fact, the screen time is the top one concern Australian parents have about their children's health and behavior. So it's not a surprise to anyone that our children today, they are digital natives. They were born and raised in a digital environment, and they are using more screens than ever before. So despite the screen time guidelines recommend children to engage with the screens no more than 2 hours a day, there is evidence saying that many children use screen time for 4.5 hours a day at home, just at home, not considering educational screen time. And there is also some evidence saying that some of those children, they engage into screen time for 7.5 hours a day. And if we think that they stay awake for 12 hours, so it's 2/3 of their waking hours per day. And this is too much. So how can children find time to do another things, to engage in physical activity, to sleep, or to socially interact with the peers, the families, the teachers at school? What is being said is that screen time displaces some of these protective behaviors first. More screen time will lead children to engage more into these activities, and then they will present more socio-emotional problems. This is the explanation. But there are also some evidence that screen time can nurture these protective behaviors. For example, social media and online games, they have been related to peer socialization, connectedness, social support, and psychological well-being in children. Same way that active video games have been related to happiness, quality of life, and their general physical health. So it's not a surprise to anyone, and I know as a parent that if my kids are happy, if they enjoyed their days, they are feeling tired, they will sleep well. So in some way, screen time can also nurture this protective behavior. So it seems that there is a bidirectional relationship between screen time and social-emotional problems among the little ones. And also, there's evidence of a reciprocal relationship between screen time and social-emotional outcomes. The same way that computer use or smartphones use have been related to the development of social-emotional problems, peer relationship problems or social-emotional problems have been related to increased use of screens. And this is a cycle. They use more screens, they feel more stressed, and it is. So what is the question? What is missing? We are missing out about screen time. The fact is, screen time, not all screen time is created equal. So we can see different sides of screen time. For example, while a child watching YouTube, for example, they can be watching YouTube to watch Disney movies, pretending to be Elsa from Frozen, and they can learn how to play guitar, or they can watch unboxing toys videos and kids showing a lot of new toys, and it's different. It will impact differently into their social-emotional well-being. Same way as educational screen time, it can be, I cannot see a negative side of screen time. I will not say to my children, okay, just only stay 2 hours engaging to educational screen time and don't do it after 2 hours. Because I know this can be good for them. They can interact with others while doing this, and they will learn and be more prepared for their lives. And also there is a difference, distinction between passive screen time and active screen time. It's completely different to see our children just seated in front of TV, watching any type of content, and see them interacting physically or cognitively with screen time. They can be dancing, they can be doing physical exercise in screen time. And it's completely different than just watching. And for example, video games. Video games can also be bad and be good. I don't like to see my child, my oldest son for example, playing how to kill people. And we don't used to allow him to do that much. But I like to see him playing Minecraft, for example, like building their digital worlds and creating strategies to survive, and or even just playing Mario Kart. So it's a different content, and it will impact differently into their lives. And social media is also can be also created in different ways. So children can use social media to connect with others, to explore different cultures, to learn about different cultures, and then can also see a bad side of screen time, social media, because they can be exposed to negative content in social media and to feel bad because of this type of content. So what is being suggested, what is being emphasized is that technology, when used together, it can be more effective for children's health and behavior. So children can engage with their friends, their relatives, their parents while using screens. They can communicate with people that don't live with them, or even with their friends. They can learn, as I said, and they can also engage, They can also create, they can use screen time to explore their creativity, their imagination. So, looking into all these inconsistencies, we keep asking, is all screen time that bad for children, or it can be good in some way? And how much screen time would be good? How much screen time would start to become a problem for their social or emotional development? So screen time is still a mystery box. We don't know exactly what is happening, what is going on into this relationship. So because of this, all these inconsistencies, there is a call for future research to understand the key mechanisms, to identify the key mechanisms influencing this relationship, and to consolidate this evidence. So doing this, we will be able to better inform the screen time guidelines. And doing this, parents, school, and society or policymakers will be able to come together, to work together, to better guide or help or support their children, our children, to thrive in their lives. So in screen time research, there are a few methodological limitations. And the first one that I could identify, and is being suggested for most of studies, is that cross-sectional studies are more prevalent in this topic. So to fill up this gap, I will do, my first study will be a systematic review about longitudinal studies to try to understand predicting effects of screen time on children's socio-emotional well-being. I will conduct a systematic review and a meta-analysis of longitudinal studies to try to understand this relationship and identify if this screen time that predicts socio-emotional problems among children, or if this is the other way around, that children suffering from some kind of socio-emotional problems tend to use more screen time, engage more in screen time. And I will also try to identify those mechanisms to know what is influencing this relationship, what factors, external factors are influencing this relationship. So for my systematic review, I will include studies, longitudinal studies, as I said, with samples of children aged 10 or younger than 10 years old at baseline that have conducted quantitative analysis of this relationship and have looked into any type of screen time or at least one socio-emotional outcome. So I will conduct my search on the Web of Science, Medline, ProQuest, Scopus, and PsycInfo databases, and my search strategy concepts will be children, screen time, longitudinal studies, and socio-emotional outcomes. So this screening, data extraction, and risk of bioprocess will be conducted by myself and a second researcher, a collaborator, and if we don't, in case that we disagree in some kind of part of this process, we will call a third researcher to help us to reach the consensus, and then we will move on to the data analysis. So additionally to the cross-sectional studies, I'm expecting, based on what I have seen in my studies, my search, that we will find the prevalence of studies using subjective measures, and that these subjective measures are taught to lack in precision. For example, there is a study that says that children that have a TV on their bedroom, parents will underestimate this TV use on those children. But if the TV is in the living room, they will overestimate their use. So it's hard for parents to tell how many times are children engaging. It's even harder to tell us what they are watching, who is with them while they are engaging to screens, and what kind of connections they are having while using screens. And also the lack of precision in these measures, it leads us to simple analytical strategies. So many studies looking to a specific type of screen time, only video games or only social media or only educational screen time, because it's still hard to put all them together and to analyze the screen time accordingly to its complexity. So we need to also fill up this gap. And for this, I will conduct my study 2, which will be part of an ARC funded research with the Square Eyes or All Eyes project. And to fill up the gap of cross-sectional studies, this study will be a longitudinal study, and we will use objective measures of screen time using wearable cameras, and it will also be in children, as the majority of studies have looked into adolescents and not only children. So in this study, I will be investigating the moderating effects of different aspects of screen time on socio-emotional outcomes and quality of life among Australian children, and that's from a 1-year longitudinal study. So I will investigate how different types of screen time, video games, social media, computer use will impact their socio-emotional outcomes. And I will also try to identify what are the other external factors that can influence this relationship. For example, physical activity, sleep, and parents' screen time. So as I said, it will be a longitudinal study in children, and our children will be blinded about the purpose of the study, because there's evidence saying that children wearing cameras, they change their behavior because of that. So to guarantee that they will not change their behavior, they will not know what exactly we will be looking into. So we will assess children's screen time using wearable cameras, and this will allow us to look into, to record different types of screen time to conduct our moderation analysis. And we will also we will assess their social and emotional outcomes and quality of life using validated subscales. So we are assuming that we will have some potential mediators in this relationship, and we will assess physical activity and sleep using objective measures using accelerometers, and parents' screen time using validated subscale as well. But considering that we will find that screen time predicts social-emotional problems among children, why does it happen? So we will try to understand this from the perspective of the need satisfaction and frustration theory, that children that are not satisfied with their lives at home, they are not feeling good or feeling competent or succeeding at school, they don't have good peer relationships, or they don't feel capable or competent to engage into physical exercise or sport-based activities, they may turn to screens to compensate these negative feelings. So we will try to understand this relationship from the perspective of need satisfaction theory. But what is being said and suggested so far is that screen time is attractive for kids. But what makes screen time so attractive for kids? The screen time is attractive because the games, for example, they are challenging enough to satisfy their needs for competence. A child playing video games, as much as they play, they feel more and more competent to do that, and they feel good. And it's also good for their autonomy. They feel they can decide what to do while you're playing. They can choose their characters. They can choose the way to go or what type of game they want to play. And it's also satisfy their needs for relatedness, because they can connect with their friends while playing online, and they have this common topic to talk with their peers at school or their friends. Even offline, they can connect with these people talking about video games, for example. So we will try to understand how this need satisfaction moderate this relationship between screen time and social emotional outcomes. And most evidence is based on video games and in young people sample. So we will try to fill up this gap doing this research in children and in different types of screen time to investigate the effects of need satisfaction or frustration on the association between screen time and social emotional outcomes in children. So we will try to see how need satisfaction impacts their social-emotional outcomes, and more specifically, we will try to identify if the need satisfaction is in screen time more strongly predicts the need satisfaction on their general lives, or if this is the other way around. So in this study, to avoid the overburden of our participants in SPERICE, because it's a large project and they will be asked to do a lot of measures already, so we will be conducting this study in an online survey with parents of children aged 4 to 10 years old, and we will recruit them via social media. So these are more my proposed studies. Firstly, a systematic review, and then we will try to identify if the associations we found based on subjective measures will be held up using objective measures of screen time, and then we will try to understand why screen time may be leading children to have socio-emotional problems. And here is my timeline. So right now I'm presenting my COC, and I'm planning to finish my first study, my systematic review, the first one at the beginning of 2022, and my study 2 and 3 I'm planning to do halfway in 2023, and in November 2023 I'm planning to be graduating, finishing my doctorate. And just to understand, like to tell you why I think this research is important. I want to understand what our children are missing out on, why they are feeling this way. Are we parents like doing a good job? Because if the problem is that they are not sleeping enough time for their health, we can just define a limit of screen time. For example, after 6 or 7 p.m., no more screen time is allowed, and they will be good at their sleep behavior. But if the problem is that they are physically inactive, we can provide them with more active options of screen time. We can provide them with active video games, for example, for them to exercise more and to improve their health, their physical health. And if the problem is the need satisfaction in screen time, so maybe as parents, we just need to engage with them in this kind of activities, like play video games with them or bring their friends home to play with them, for them to feel more connected and more satisfied while playing video games. But if the whole problem is based on their need satisfaction, how they are satisfied or not with their general lives, so we may need to provide them with better options, like meaningful opportunities to engage with other activities, to do more physical activity, to go out more frequently and play with their friends and engage with the peers. So maybe we need to do a better job as parents and don't work too much and give them more attention. And doing this, hopefully we will have a happier generation of children here in Australia and all around the world. And this is my presentation. Thanks everyone again, and I'm open to questions.